What is going on out there, Odd Squad? It's your boy Bleed, and I'm here with my good buddy Al Mac. What's going on, Al?
What's up, man? It's Saturday afternoon, and it's 2021, and we just saw – I don't even know what we just saw. We'll talk about it. That was just –
Well, we're going to talk about it, aren't we? Yeah, we really saw something. Mainstream America. Welcome to the UFC. Max Holloway. Unreal stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Let's talk about the first fight on our main card on this recap of UFC Fight Island 7. Punahele Soriano goes out there, puts it on Dusko Todorovic. Man, I got to be honest, this is a fight I had some action on. I took the dog. I said it on the Friday show, man. I felt like both these guys brought a similar skill set. Both guys very dangerous with the hands. Both guys had the ability to finish the other, and both guys were undefeated. So we had to decide whose O was going to go here. I thought it was going to play out very closely, but there was just that one factor that stood out to me, and it was the striking defense of Dusko Todorovic. I said it. This guy's very upright, chin out in the air, fighting against Punahele Soriano, one of the biggest power punchers in the division. I said if Punahele can put it on him early, catch him with some big shots, it was going to be big problems for Dusko. My goodness, this fight might have gone a little too long. Punahele clips him with some huge shots, just stays on him, just puts a beating on him. Clean, clear, dominant victory for Punahele Soriano. Cashes as a plus 145 underdog. Great fight, great bet. What'd you think of this one, Al?
Yeah, man. What a brutal way to welcome UFC fans, or not UFC fans, mainstream sports fans to the sport on a Saturday afternoon, watching Dusko get completely annihilated. Like, this fight should have been stopped 5 times, and you saw, as soon as you saw Herb Dean for opening fight, you knew this fight's going to go a little bit too long. They're putting the guy, the right ref, for the entertainment value. If you're going to see a guy get completely destroyed beyond the point that it's even sport anymore, that's what we saw. And I was on the favorite here. The favorite lost badly. I felt that the value in this fight was on the under. The under 2.5 cashed at minus 135. And I felt like this fight, 6 out of 10 times was going to go under, and, minus 150 or better on the under in this fight, I thought was a great bet, and it cashed. It just didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen. So I feel like that was kind of the theme of the night.
Oh man, we had some violence tonight. Yeah. Great fight, man. Punahele Soriano looking pretty good, has his shortcomings. And, the big question here in this fight was, is he going to have the gas tank to last? Well, you go out there, ice a dude in the first round. Who needs a gas tank, right? Unfortunately, we still have that question, when he doesn't put somebody out, are we still going to see that same guy fading in the second and third round? I don't know. The question's unanswered. It's one of those little caveats that we have to carry into the future when we think about betting on Punahele Soriano. But, wow, guy brings big power. You better have your striking defense on point fighting Punahele Soriano, because he just needs that one shot. He's going to put you out. So big underdog cashes there, and boy, he was not alone. We had some dogs cashing, and let's just take that right into the next fight. Alessio Di Chirico, 2 minutes and 12 seconds of the first round, knocks out Mr. KO of the year 2020. A little bit of a hype train starting to form here on Joaquin Buckley. Oh, man, I got to tell you, Al, this was a fight that, don't get me wrong, I ended up picking Joaquin Buckley, right? But as a minus 300 favorite, I steered way clear. Did unfortunately have him on a Hail Mary parlay, and wouldn't you know it, the only guy that didn't come through for me. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but in retrospect, man, I finished out the card pretty solid. Had Joaquin Buckley comes through, I win a 7-fighter parlay. Would have just been a beautiful thing. Joaquin Buckley eats the shin to the dome. First round, Alessio Di Chirico, a guy fighting for his job, right? And I just had that feeling that this fight was going to get a little sketchy. Now, I still thought Buckley would win, but Alessio Di Chirico had never been KO'd. So we're asking Joaquin Buckley to go out there and put on another spectacular KO performance against a guy that just doesn't get KO'd. So in a way, kind of some trap matchmaking, kind of a trap spot. Glad I avoided it all in all, with the big money. Like I said, would have cashed big if Buckley would have won. But what'd you think of this one, Al? Alessio De Chirico gets it done with. I think we're going to see him in the future. Look good tonight.
Yeah, he didn't really have too much to say after the fact, which is very strange for somebody who just, ended this hype train. He had a hard chip on his shoulder after the fight. He didn't want to talk to anybody. He walked off in his post-fight. He's kind of a lunatic, but it was very what was it? It was very Sandhagen Marias-esque, the way that Buckley just walked into that knee, walked into that shin. It's just one of those things where Buckley should not have been favored as even if you thought Buckley was going to win 70% of the time that these two guys fought, 7 out of 10 times is only, that's, minus 300, do the math. That's not, there was value on Buckley at like minus 225, but beyond that, it was just the real value in this fight was on the under. And it's just like the fight that we just talked about where
right.
The under cashed because the market was expecting a quick finish, and that's how it worked. But it just was the other way around, So interesting one. The thing about it is that this fight was almost priced out, where like Buckley was such a high favorite, but you weren't getting, the books were taking a big take on this fight because you weren't getting that De Chirico plus 240. And Buckley was as high as like minus 310 offshore, places like that. There should have been a lot more money. There should have been a lot more of a comeback, plus 275, in that range. I would have thought about taking De Chirico, but like this fight was just priced out. The value in this fight was on the under. And beyond that, this is one of those fights where the bookies just made money basically either way.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I mean, how quickly we forget. Buckley's the guy who was KO'd 3 fights ago by Kevin Holland, right? But man, one spectacular KO and how it just wipes everybody's memory. You know what I mean? So, I mean, De Chirico, multiple KOs. Again, I got to reiterate, the guy who's never been KO'd. So you take all that in and, all I can say is hats off to people who, A, picked De Chirico to win, and B, if you bet him, wow, pretty good stuff there. Total value play fully. So, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of people still knew Buckley was being overpriced. The line was way too wide, but you still probably expected Buckley to go in there and do his thing. And even if he didn't knock him out, hurt him bad, and I guess make it to the decision. But I don't know, man. I think a lot of people thought that Buckley was going to go in there, get the easy KO and get out. And, we had a lot of data. We had a lot of information. We had a lot of history telling us that probably wasn't going to be the play. So like I said, hats off to the De Chirico backers. Is there anything you want to throw in on this one, Al?
No, it's just I don't know where either fighter goes after this. Like it felt like De Chirico, he kind of saved his job, but also was like so upset after the fight that he might have just talked himself right out of a job. Just such a bizarre fight. That's what I mean. It was so weird. Tonight was like. I said this to you before we started. Tonight was like when you have a friend who like acts differently when you bring them around other friends. That's how UFC on ABC was today. It was a little bit off. As soon as we switched to the big network from the ESPN Plus or whatever, it was just
it got wacky.
Things started to go off the rails.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to think we had 3 underdogs. I mean, like really legit, juicy underdogs get first round KOs, which again leads us right into our third fight of the night. Zhangliang Lee just ices Santiago Ponceibio 4 minutes, 25 seconds into the first round. Another one, man, that, I got to feel like I got to pat myself on the back a little bit on this one, just because of the fact that, I said yesterday on the Friday show, this is absolute insanity. Santiago Ponceibio coming off of this tremendous layoff, almost 3 years, staph infections, just crazy. The guy almost lost his life, almost lost his knee Doctors are telling him you'll never fight again, and then to come out here against a guy that's just so game, so tough, so nasty as a Zhangliang Lee. This guy went off minus 300 or beyond. It's just in pure insanity. I understand the 7-fight win streak, but the way I put it yesterday and the way I put it still today, it's like that layoff and all these red flags outside the octagon didn't play in at all to the value of Ponceibio. This guy was priced like it was 2018, and he's still on a 7-fight win streak, fighting the, so-so Zhangliang Lee. And I put out that warning, man. I said, there's a chance Ponceibio comes in here, looks like a ghost, looks like a shell of his former self. And my goodness, did he. 34-year-old welterweight coming off of a huge layoff with an array of health problems. And not only that, but his initial layoff, there were some USADA rumors too. That could be a factor in this too. We could be talking about a guy who's gone through all that physically and then also is no longer on PEDs. My goodness, tremendous, huge win. Santiago was flat. He was bad, left himself wide open, and just a massive left hook from Zhangliang Lee. What do you got to throw at us on this one, Al?
Yeah, this is one of those fights where, again, the favorite was just so overpriced, and I felt like the value in this fight was on the over, but it's almost in that sense where the favorite is so overpriced that I was like, I'm just going to split a unit between the over and the dog, because you're getting plus 295, you know what I mean? And it's just, I know somebody who had the same thing that Ponceibio had. It's a blood infection that's caused from a freshwater bacteria. It kills people. It's not, it changes people forever. And, Ponceibio, I didn't know this until fight week. He works for the UFC. The UFC kind of gave him they kind of gave him like an olive branch to keep to stay within the company. And I wouldn't be surprised. If we saw him retire, because from everything that we've heard, everything, all the stories that have come out in the lead up to his return, in the lead up to this fight, it sounds like he's had a really rough go. And this is a guy who could take a shot in his, in prior days, and he just got flattened, absolutely flattened. And, the leech, plus 650 inside the distance, and then plus 295 to win on the money line. It's one of those things where I was like, this fight's either Ponceibio is either going to go the distance and win. And so the value, if you're backing Ponceibio, is on the over, but you can also just, at plus 295, you just, play both sides. So that's what I did. And, the over lost, but it doesn't matter because I got plus 295 on the other side. So it was a weird one. I bet it just as a value play. I did not see that happening. And that's how, another fight where it's just not what the market at all expected,
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. And this is what I like to call it a litmus test. I like to say when a guy's on a big layoff, when there's just issues, right? We know a guy's coming in and we've got a multitude of red flags. Sometimes it's only one red flag. You know what I mean? We can really only knock a guy or kind of question and be suspicious. What's this guy going to look like? But if it's a big enough red flag, I have no problem letting the fight like that blow right by me, And I said earlier this week, I'm going to let this, because I felt like, Zhangliang Lee is not the best fighter out there. We've got a lot of guys at welterweight, a lot more skilled, a lot more technical, probably a lot more dangerous in a multitude of ways. Zhangliang Lee, what can you say about this guy? He's just very aggressive, very game. He's going to be in there, but not necessarily the sharpest guy. But you give him his opportunities and he hits you on the chin early in a fight, he's going to knock you out. I felt like this was going to be, and I feel like the UFC felt like this was going to be the perfect test in return for Ponceibio. I really do feel like they gave him a very opportunistic matchup, which is probably why we saw the odds where they were, But again, man, it's just not the same guy. And Al, I gotta be honest, man. I agree with you fully. For people who haven't followed this sport, Santiago Ponceibio, coming off that 7-fight win streak, was an absolute assassin killer looking like a potential champion, title challenger, all that stuff. That's not what we saw tonight. That's a totally different guy. I think what he's gone through physically has changed him. He'll never be the same. And it just wasn't there. You know, the eyes don't lie. That was not Santiago Ponceibio. That was an imposter. I'd like to see him hang it up, like you said, continue to be a Spanish broadcast commentator. It's a better job anyway. And you know what? You don't have guys like Li Jingliang knocking your block off and concussing you. You know what I mean? I'd like to see him hang it up. I think it's over. He had a great run. It is what it is. Do you have anything else you want to say about this one?
Yeah, it's just rough. He was literally maybe one fight away from a title shot. And but yeah, you did mention there were those USADA rumors. And you know, it's just interesting how much even just in that short span of he was out, the game has changed so much.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate. I don't even think like he's in this weird spot where like he's a legend where he's from. You know what I mean? So
sure.
he doesn't need to go to Bellator. You know what I mean? He doesn't need,
no.
You know, so
let's just call it. Let's wrap it up. There's just no way, man. Come on. You know. But I feel bad for the guy, but you know, is what it is. Hey, listen, let's not take any shine away from Li Jingliang. Huge win. I gotta be honest though, man. I didn't see like a Li Jingliang who looked improved, who looked different. I think he's the exact same guy, and I think he's always gonna be that same guy. And I'll be looking to fade him in the right spots in the future for sure. And I tell you what, man, if they give Ponceibio another fight, buddy, is he getting faded. It's going to have to be some super low-level talent. But like I said, I'd rather not even see him in there. So, rolling right along, we're already up to the co-main event. Carlos Condit, the OG, taking on the even more OG 40-year-old Matt Brown. Carlos Condit goes out there, wins a unanimous decision. I want to say 30-27 on all judges' scorecards, which might be a little bit funky because Matt Brown definitely had top control 4 minutes of that first round. How often do we see judges kind of forget about that first round when we see a guy win the second and third round? Convincingly, they kind of go, you know what? Forget that first round. I'll erase that. Let's just give the guy all three. Which, don't get me wrong, I can see an argument for saying Carlos Condit won that first round, but so much control time from Matt Brown. Either way, didn't matter, man. Carlos Condit showed that, he's got even the wrestling, the reversals, the grappling to deal with Matt Brown, who honestly went out there and fought the smart game plan. You know, if Matt Brown was going to win this fight, it wasn't on the feet, it wasn't striking. He was going to need to take him down and use that wrestling. Unfortunately, Matt Brown, 40 years old. I talked about it yesterday. I didn't see a 40-year-old Matt Brown having that gas tank, that ability to go out there and wrestle for a full 15 minutes. Sure enough, Condit, takes the best of it. They start the second round. It's all Condit from that point on. Clean-cut decision in my eyes. Condit gets it done. Look good, man. I had a bet on Condit. Very glad he cashed. Condit's not done just yet, but, maybe he wouldn't look so good against, a non-40-year-old man who's been through a lot. You know what I'm saying? What'd you think of this one, Al?
What do you mean? You don't think he's in line he can maybe get a title shot? Like DC was saying?
I think that was very good matchmaking for Carlos Condit. That was a very well selected fight. Very, very good stuff from Carlos Condit's manager. I like that. Good matchmaking.
Yeah, it was I wish they put this fight to start the card. You know what I mean? How great would that have been? You know what I mean? It's like, forget all the glamour. This is what MMA is.
It was a great fight.
It was a great fight. Like, if you are if you knew who these two guys were, right? Because Matt Brown was a shell of himself, and he looked like he was in a training session, like he was breathing deeply. I don't know. It was just, he needs to retire. Like,
yes.
He needs to retire.
You got it, my man. You got it.
Condit still has
he appears to just have one round. We saw him in his fight previous to this against Miguel Baeza. He hurt Miguel Baeza bad, sent his mouthpiece flying, had him crumpled against the fence. Miguel Baeza recovers, goes out there and knocks out Matt Brown a minute into the second round. Matt Brown at this point, One round fighter. It's just that simple. If he doesn't KO you, he doesn't finish you in that first round, you are going to have your way with Matt Brown. And I honestly don't care who you are. Any welterweight that makes it, that's on a UFC contract right now that makes it beyond that first round, I think they pretty much mop Matt Brown up. So, yeah, is it the end of the road? I hope so, man. What does he have left to prove at this point? Yeah, Carlos Condit.
As for Condit would be right. I'd like to see Condit, go until he doesn't want to go anymore. Like, he's not spectacular by any means. I know Cormier was saying that he might be able to be in line for a title shot at some point, which is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But
damn,
I would like to see him fight a ranked fighter. Maybe.
Oh no, Al, I think that's too much, man. I think we give him like
Nick or Nate.
Hey, there you go. Now you're talking. Nick, I don't think's ever coming back. He barely beat Nick in Nick's prime in a very controversial decision. I like where your head's at, though. How about Nate Diaz? Let's get him in there with Nate Diaz at 170. That'd be a good scrap because you know what? I don't think Nate is at that level anymore where he formerly once was. That'd be a good fight. Good stuff, Al. I like that. Let's give him Nate Diaz. That's fun. That would be a really good fight.
There was either that or there was also rumors that he might fight Dan Hardy.
Oh, okay. You know what? Well, man, I don't know. I don't even know what we have there, man. Dan Hardy, gray-haired old Dan Hardy, another guy to stick to the commentary booth, dude. Don't get back in the cage. What are you thinking, Dan Hardy? I don't know, man. But Carlos Condit, I thought he looked pretty good, all in all. I'm gonna say Carlos Condit gets it done. I think Carlos Condit could still win some fights in the UFC, albeit give him that. I don't even know if middling's the word, man. Maybe give him that lower tier talent, let him ride off into the sunset on a few wins. I don't see him entering the top 15 anytime soon. He's just not that same guy anymore.
The only reason I say that is like if he fought a ranked fighter, it's a payday. You know what I mean? Even if he lost, it's still. It puts his name up there. It's one of those last times, there's no way there's ever going to be a title shot, but let him fight a ranked fighter, maybe get that little bump in pay, maybe get him on a pay-per-view, main card, something like that, like there's still meat on that bone with Carlos Condit.
Yeah, there appears to be. I mean, he's on a 2-fight win streak, so he's putting it together. Obviously, something's been switched around. He was on that terrible losing streak and now strung together a couple wins. So good on him, All right, main event time. Al, what in the world did we just watch? That has got to be. Here's what I'm going to say. That main event was so entertaining, so good, and so one-sided. I mean, have you ever seen a one-sided beatdown that was ever that fun and entertaining? That's the craziest part about this. When we think instant classics, when we think great fights, we think back and forth affairs where both guys are having their moments. And don't get me wrong, Keator actually did have a couple moments late in the fight. But my God, I think we just saw a man beaten to death, prime time on ABC, switched between episodes of America's Funniest Home Videos. Prime time ABC on a Saturday afternoon. We saw Calvin Kattar get decimated by Max Holloway, who went in there on another level. Okay, Max Holloway. And you know what? I just got to say, I was on an island on this one, man. I took Max Holloway. I kind of explained to people how I thought this fight was going to play out and that Max was going to have more output. Max was going to be on him. Max was going to slowly pull away. I mean, I just probably couldn't have got a better read on this fight. So many people on Calvin Kattar in this spot. And I'll be honest, I get it. I understand Calvin Kattar is an underdog. Calvin Kattar with the reach advantage. Calvin Kattar coming into this fight, a lot of people theorized was going to be the better boxer. Max Holloway puts all that to rest. Took time out of his fight in the 5th round to acknowledge to the announcer's cage side multiple times, I'm the best boxer in the UFC. There's nobody that's going to roll with it in the pocket. And my God, what a classic, legendary performance by the future UFC Hall of Famer, potentially greatest featherweight of all time, Max Holloway. It was totally, y'all must have forgot moment with Max Holloway. It seemed like everybody was on Keator this week, man. Holloway goes out there, shows, the blessed era's not over, baby. 29 years old. He's absorbed the most head strikes in UFC history by a huge margin. Hundreds of significant strikes. But my man's never been knocked down, never been knocked out. What is going on in this guy's head to eat those shots and keep going? Unreal stuff from Max Holloway, instant classic. And he immediately, listen, he doesn't throw his hat in the ring to fight for the title next. We need to see Ortega Volkanovski fight to figure out who gets to fight Max Holloway. You said it earlier. I'm on board with you, dude. Incredible stuff from Max Holloway. Let me hear what you thought, Al.
Yeah, man, like it's one of those great things in the sport of MMA is when you're wrong, you get to pay to see something that proves you wrong. Like as much as we all love betting on football and basketball, there's nothing more worth losing your money than seeing the guy that you bet on get beaten to a bloody pulp, not to mention on national cable TV. It's just crazy. Calvin Kattar is such a tough guy. He's built up this persona of being such a tough guy. He had that thing with Jeremy Stevens where he said, like, I'm here to, you didn't show up at weight. So I'm going to show you show up to work, you come prepared. He bullied him. He bullied Ige. He said that he was going to treat Holloway like a freshman. Like I said, Keator has this great, really rare, unique style from where he's from. He's very heavy Muay Thai kickboxing style. He's got that knee up, those step-in elbows. And that's how I thought this fight was going to go, is that they were going to beat each other up for quite a while and that Keator was going to be able to use that momentum, use that, that rangy kickboxing that he kind of seems to have, that Muay Thai style of the elbows and stuff like that. But Max Holloway there was never a chance. There was never even a chance for any of that. Max Holloway looked like, you said it best when you broke it down. You said a vintage performance, and that was like a vintage performance plus something else.
Oh yeah.
Like that was unbelievable. Like I said, I messaged you right after that was over. I said, this Max could beat Conor,
I like it. Yeah. Hey, another thing, you DM me on Twitter. I want to say about 1 minute into the first round, you could tell right away that Max was just, I'll put it like this though. If hopefully there was still some like meat on the bone on a live line, because man, you DM me right away. A minute into that fight, you knew Keator was going to have some problems. And I got to be honest, man, it seemed I felt the same way too, because, usually we see Max kind of start slow, pick things up, and then start stepping on that gas, in the third round into championship rounds. That dude came out like nothing we've ever seen. Okay, now this is all unverified, but I'm going to go out on a limb and go ahead and say that has got to be the most significant strikes ever thrown in a fight. It's got to be the most significant strikes ever landed in a fight. And I believe he set round records as well for most significant strikes in rounds. It just Max Holloway went out there and obliterated the record books against a guy who was supposed to be that guy who can beat Max Holloway standing toe-to-toe. Truly unreal, truly unbelievable. I had a bet on Max Holloway. I felt good about Max Holloway. I didn't expect that. I thought this fight was going to play out closer. I really did. I thought Keator was going to be able to hang. Like I said, Keator had a few good moments where Max got a bit reckless. Don't get me wrong, Max being reckless. By that reckless, I mean unloading 10-punch combos on Keator against the fence, but allowing Keator to hit him with some elbows, hit him with some hard shots. I already talked about it though. The chin of Max Holloway. Granite's not the word. Titanium's not the word. It's beyond human. Okay. This guy just cannot be turned off. This guy cannot be hurt. Someday, I believe we see Max Holloway get hurt by punches. We see him get put down. No human being can go out there and continue to absorb this damage like he has. But up to this point, Max Holloway can. And where that line's going to get drawn, I have no idea. The sky is the limit for Max Holloway. The craziest thing about this fight, right? The thing we kept hearing repeated constantly by the announcers, Max Holloway hasn't been sparring. Max Holloway hasn't been sparring. I was hearing it all week leading up to this. Max Holloway's not sparring. How are you supposed to go out there and beat a guy with the boxing of Calvin Kattar and you're not fighting? You're not practicing. Max Holloway knows how to fight. And apparently not sparring, not fighting every day of the week, damn, it makes you a good fighter. He looked like he was on another level, just incredible. I could talk for hours about that performance from Max Holloway. Yeah, what's next for Max Holloway, Al?
I don't know. At that point, like you said that I said, is that he, with the featherweight belt, it's not with that fight that's happening now between Ortega and Volkanovski. They're fighting for who gets to fight Max. The belt is no longer a factor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he's solidified himself as he's a needle mover. Like, like that was just, I will pay top dollar to see Max Holloway fight, in I did today actually, because I had a $125 bet on Calvin Kattar. But, and it's just it's crazy, man. I've never seen somebody just turn into, I've never seen Kattar. You could tell right away that's when I message you, is because you could tell right away that Max is hitting him like a freight train and Kattar's shelling up and he's grimacing. And like, I've never seen Kattar. No one's made Kattar do that. No one's made Kattar look like, no one's made Kattar look like that. Like that was, he made Kattar look like, I'm trying to think of a terrible fighter.
I don't know, but it was absolutely unreal considering what Cater's done and who he's done it to for Holloway to go out there and just show he's not a class above Cater. There's leagues. There's a multitude of levels between where Calvin Kattar's at and where Max Holloway's at. One thing I got to touch on before we move on, man. Highly disappointed in the corner of Calvin Kattar. I understand he had moments where he's throwing, he seemed alive still. He seemed to still have a chance. And I'll say this, if he would have somehow hit Max with a shot and put him away in that 5th round, it would absolutely have been the greatest Hail Mary comeback in MMA history by a mile. But in my eyes, that fight, Herb Dean could have stopped in the 3rd round. Herb Dean could have stopped multiple times in the 4th round. Herb Dean could have stopped in the 5th round. But at some point, it's on your corner to know that this guy truly doesn't have a chance, or the chance he does have is so minimal that the damage he's taking. I just think Calvin Kattar, we're going to see a different man. Okay. Calvin Kattar is going to be changed from that beating. And honestly, I was surprised to hear him giving coherent interviews after the fight, being as he currently has a liquefied brain and suffered 150 concussions tonight. Unreal stuff, man. A little bit sketchy. Here's what I worry about, okay? This was the UFC's big debut on ABC, okay? This was mainstream America getting a glimpse into the UFC, right? That fight was so good from a fan of the sport perspective. I'm afraid it was too good for the I don't know what I'm watching, ultra casual crowd. I think that might have been too violent. That literally may have crossed the line into an area of of shock, into an area of I can't believe what I'm witnessing on ABC. Like this, where how the world's changed when it's Home Improvement, a man being beat to death, and then America's Funniest Home Videos. Like, it's just, it is what it is, man. I feel bad for Calvin Kattar. I got to give him props on the toughness. Unreal. I think 9 out of 10 guys in the UFC at some point collapses, just quit. Their body goes out. Calvin Kattar was never going to quit. Heart of a champion, heart of a lion. Respect to him, but I do feel let down by his corner, and I think they've damaged their fighter. I really do think that they've deemed the future on Calvin Kattar, allowing that fight to continue.
But yeah, if you ask him though, he would have died in the cage. It's just the type of guy that he is.
I'm afraid he might die tonight still, so that the story might not be over. I hope he's at a hospital being observed very tentatively.
Yeah, like his nickname is the Boston Finisher. He looked like Boston Chowder. He looked like Hannah Cyphers. That's who he looked like.
He took a legendary all-time beating, man. That's really all I can say. Max Holloway, wow. He was already a star, already a legend, already a future Hall of Famer. He probably really elevated himself tonight on this new stage. The sky could be the limit for Max Holloway. All I can say is his stock has taken just a rocket ship off this performance, and big things are ahead for Max Holloway. And wow, who could beat that output? Just unreal. So that pretty much wraps up our recap on UFC Fight Island 7. But don't go anywhere just yet, because this Wednesday, UFC Fight Island 8 early card main event, Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny. Al, I'm going to let you tell us about this one first before I get going here.
Yeah, this is one where Chiesa's coming back from a pretty bad knee injury, knee surgery. So he's been waiting for a fight. He's been healthy, I think, since like the summer. He's been waiting for a fight. And Neil Magny is the guy that he draws. And Neil Magny, he's on a 3-fight run right now. His last fight was against Robbie Lawler, where he just, we were talking about before we came on. Lawler was gun shy in that fight. And I feel like that there's a chance that Chiesa could be gun shy in this fight. And I feel like the line, I feel like you'd be able to get some better value on Magny in this fight if this wasn't lined, if this wasn't scheduled on a Wednesday morning. If Chiesa was on a Saturday, if this was a fight night, if there was more public interest, that this line would probably get steamed a little bit to Chiesa's side, and you'd be able to get some value on Magny. As far as I see it right now, in my opinion, it's just too hard. It's too hard to tell, and the market looks like it's a little bit priced out. This fight opened, like minus 125 to minus 105, shaded towards Magny, and that's probably fair. But I would hope to get some better value on Magny in this fight. And at the time, it just seems, the pick for me is Magny, just because he's been out for Chiesa's been out for so long. It's just such a question mark, and he shouldn't be a coin flip dog to a guy who's in his division that's on a 3-fight run. It's a tough one. It's a priced out fight, and this is the type of fight where I'm on the favorite, and I'm waiting for the market to come in on the other side, but I don't think it's going to. So it's a tough one to call, man. It's a tough one to call. What do you think?
Well, I'm right there with you, dude. Very, very tough fight to pick. And if you guys are interested, I'm actually on my channel, Just Bleed MMA, here on YouTube. I've already done a whole card breakdown if you want to check that out and get my more, in-depth analysis on even beyond this fight. But I ended up going with the favorite. I ended up taking Neil Magny. But man, I tell you what, in my research leading up to this fight, I was really back and forth. At one point I said to myself, Chiesa could be a good play. And here was my angle on it. So Michael Chiesa to win this fight, right? He's not going to want to go in there and stand toe-to-toe with Neil Magny. That's just the worst game plan possible. I don't see Neil Magny ever losing a striking contest to Michael Chiesa. But Chiesa's going to go in there and do what he does. He trains out of sick jitsu. He needs to go in there and use that sick jitsu. Try to get on the back of Neil Magny. I've talked about how Chiesa has the third most rear naked chokes in UFC history. This guy gets on your back, it is a wrap. I think he's sneaky strong. He's sneaky big, but that plays into the other point I want to bring up about this fight. So I was very surprised in Michael Chiesa's last fight, where he absolutely, I'm not going to say dominated, but he won a clean fight over RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, okay? I thought Rafael Dos Anjos would win that fight. I didn't think Chiesa was going to do such a good job of hitting the takedowns, being stuck on him, holding him up against the cage. Never let RDA get his game off in a 3-round fight. Chiesa cruises to the decision as, I want to say, close to a plus 200 underdog in that spot. It was surprising to me because I think RDA has pretty good grappling, pretty good wrestling, and he showed us lately, he knows what he's doing. So for Chiesa to have that success, it really opened my eyes. But here's the deal, right? We're talking about RDA, a career lightweight, one of the smaller welterweights out there, going up against Chiesa, one of the biggest welterweights out there. Here's the big problem. Neil Magny is the biggest welterweight out there, and he's way bigger than anyone Chiesa's had to deal with. Chiesa's always gone in there, been the longer, taller, stronger man. And for the first time, probably in his career, that's not going to be the case in this fight. Neil Magny's huge. Neil Magny's 6'3", Michael Chiesa 6 foot, both very big welterweights. Neil Magny, here were some of my hangups. Neil Magny in his fight against RDA, RDA took Neil Magny down and choked him out, took him out in the first round, subbed him. So you're saying to yourself, my God, Neil Magny gets, choked out by RDA, who gets just climbed all over by Chiesa. Chiesa's going to go in there and do the same thing, right? Not that simple, man. Neil Magny's really shored up that area of the game. I want to talk about the Anthony Rocco Martin fight against Neil Magny. This is the most important matchup, I believe, talking about this fight. Anthony Rocco Martin has the game plan Neil Magny's going to go in there with against has the game plan Michael Chiesa is going to go in there to try to execute against Neil Magny. And Rocco Martin had some success early on. Early in the first round, took him down, was in top position. Neil Magny works his way up, doesn't stay on the ground long, gets back to doing his thing, ends up cooking Anthony Rocco Martin, a guy who's known for a pace and really good cardio. Neil Magny makes him work too hard. He's grinding for takedowns. They're not happening. Sure enough, Neil at a certain point almost starts bringing the fight into that grappling realm, knowing he's just too big, just too strong. Martin can't get him down. I think we see a similar scenario here. I think Chiesa comes out, potentially does have some early success hitting some takedowns. Could end up taking that back and finding that rear naked choke early. I do feel like there's a very real possibility Michael Chiesa, gets in there, does his business, and gets out of there quick. Because if he does not, and this fight goes into that second and third round, Neil Magny, incredible cardio, incredible pace. I see him turning it up, turning it on. Chiesa begins to struggle with the takedowns, begins to gas himself using the wrestling and the grappling. Neil Magny continuously starts landing those shots, taking over. Chiesa's, panic shooting, looking for the panic takedowns. Can't take it anymore. Magny finishes him in that third or even those fourth and fifth. I call them championship rounds. This isn't a championship fight. It is a main event, though. It's a 5-round fight. I think that favors Neil Magny. The pick is Neil Magny. I think he takes out Chiesa late in this fight.
Yeah, similar to your angle, I think the most important fight when breaking down this is Chiesa's loss to Anthony Pettis at UFC 226 in 2018. He lost by a triangle armbar, and I'm just looking now. Pettis was a 8-1 odds to win by submission in that fight, plus 380 to win inside the distance, and he was a plus 160 underdog. And I feel like, and you look at his record, the next fight that he had after that was Carlos Condit. The next fight that he had after that was Diego Sanchez. And the next fight that he had after that was Rafael dos Santos, which is, Rafael dos Santos, you can't put in the same category as the other two.
Right.
But he did have a long layoff, right after
and
that.
is a guy that's not who he once was.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like the line, now I might have just talked myself into this now. The line should be higher, right? There is value on Magny here. The line should be higher.
Listen, I'll put it like this. These numbers to me are close enough that regardless who you go with, a minus 140 Neil Magny to what? A plus 120 Chiesa, regardless of who you're on, I think we have a very bettable fight here on either side. So I see a path to victory for Chiesa, but I do feel like the far more likely outcome, if they fought 10 times, I do see Magny winning the vast majority of those times, to a point where I would probably say the implied odds do have some value. I think Neil Magny, even up to a minus 175, 185 is probably still okay. So for me, my money will be on Magny. But like I said, a little bit of danger, I think, early on. But I will be absolutely surprised if Chiesa goes in there and manhandles Neil Magny the way he's handled some of these other guys. At the same time, couldn't even find the finish against Diego Sanchez, who it just doesn't get more washed than Diego Sanchez. I'm sorry at this point. I see Neil Magny pulling away with this one. This is one of those fights that honestly I felt much closer about earlier in the week. Felt like I said, I almost came away thinking Neil Magny was the pick. The more work I put in, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it. I do feel like Neil Magny is the guy you got to go with here in this one, though.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, and I'm trying to make a case for, for Chiesa here, and I feel like they gave him like a better fight than maybe what he wanted, maybe a step down from what he wanted, which could be a bad thing. I just don't like this scenario. I would never bet on Chiesa in this scenario. He also hasn't fought with the no crowd, although there will be a slight crowd here. But I mean, his last fight was in January of last year in a sold out arena. So like that, that there is a factor there. And now he's also in a completely different place in the world, fighting at who knows what time this fight is happening in their time, their local time, so it's going to be, it's a weird one to bet. It's a weird fight.
Oh yeah, it's a tough one, man, for sure. And I, like I said, I understand either way. I think there's an argument for both sides. So, Al, is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up, man? We are back in effect. 2021 has kicked off, and we're kicking it off with a bang, man. A Wednesday card. We got UFC 257, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker. Oh boy, it's going off. Who's going to be able to lure Khabib out of retirement? I don't think it happens, but either way, buckle up, folks. We got some serious action, some serious fights to talk about, and it's all coming at you here on Odds HQ and odds.com. From my man, Al Mack, I am Bleed from Just Bleed MMA. Anything you want to say to the folks before we get out of here, Al?
No, man, just underdogs, 5-5. 5-5 for plus 3.65 units to start the season, to start the year. So keep betting those dogs. You got, 3 units in your pocket. You can throw 3 units on dogs next week.
I'm telling you, man, these underdogs in the UFC, it's the real deal. All right, y'all. Thank you for watching. I see you all in the chat. Great stuff, man. If you're watching this on the replay, props as well. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and tune in next week. We will be back 2 times. It's a two card week, baby. Let's get into it. I'm Bleed. He's Al. We're out.